cruising back from San Diego right now, and I wanted to talk about my tune. A couple people have been asking me about it, so just wanted to make a little video. So right now I'm running MHD on the F10 M5. I've run this on my G30 as well, and you actually don't see that many people with the F10 or the S63TU running MHD. I'm sure there are some, but if you try to find it on the forums, you don't really find much. You might find it in some related posts, but you're not really going to see a whole lot. A lot more people go with boot mode, or they go with Evolve tune or a custom tune of some sort, which is equally as good, but I'm familiar with MHD. That's the reason I wanted to use it. That's the reason that I bought it for this car. I did not buy XHP, so just the engine is tuned on this car. I didn't see the need having the DCT and all. If you've driven the DCT, put it in Sport Plus, I think it's plenty. I like the behavior, I like its characteristics, I like how it guesses when to shift in auto mode. I love manual mode, especially when you turn the shift point all the way up. It just cracks off shifts super quick. It's probably as fast as a PDK. So right now with MHD, I'm running the E30 tune, and for the E30 tune on the S63TU, it's rated at about 800 crank horsepower. So I think that's somewhere in the range of 650, maybe a little more wheel horsepower. I haven't dynoed the car yet. I do plan to within the next few weeks. It's just gonna take a couple of weeks to get an appointment here. If any of you live in SoCal and you've tried to dyno your car, you know that every place is booked up usually. So let's get a little sound. Camera fill. Yeah, so when you get going in this thing, shit starts flying everywhere. So 4, downshift to 3rd now. Sound just fills the cabin up. Wow. Yeah, so I'm running the E30 map, like I said, and this costs about $7.99 or $7.49 depending on where you buy it from. If you buy it directly off MHD's website, get the super license package, that's going to cost you $7.99 plus taxes, and then you'll get a little email, and that'll contain your license and your license code. And so you're going to download MHD on your iOS or Android device, and then you're going to take that license code and enter it, and it's going to activate your super license. And from that point, if you bought the super license package, it's going to include all the off-the-shelf maps already. So all you need to do from that point is get out to your car, tune it. And the first time you tune your car, it'll take about 3 to 4 minutes. When I tuned my G30, it's a lot faster just because of the newer software and hardware on that car. It took about 2 to 3 minutes. When I did it on the F10 M5, it took about 3 to 4 minutes. It was noticeably longer, and it took noticeably longer to read all the modules when I connect to something like Bemmer Code or ESYS or whatever program you're using. You'll notice that the F10 is slower compared to a newer vehicle, which is understood. So right now I'm on the E5, just cruising along. Got a good speed going, I won't say what. You can hear the rumble of the car. Downshift 5th to 4th, 4th to 3rd. Engine braking down to 4,000 RPMs. I mean, the way way it just cracks off shifts is unbelievable. This is a supercar through and through. I mean, it has 4 doors and it's not low slung, but when you drive it, everything feels like a supercar. The speed, the brakes, steering, the sensation of just being in something special, which is something that is definitely missing from my G30. And see how that responds. So we've got a stretch of open here. I won't say how fast that went, but it was very, very quick, and I'm pretty sure this thing will do 60 to 120 in like 6.5 seconds, if not less. I gotta do a video on that and test it. I'm sure you guys will love that. Downshift 4th to 3rd, 3rd to 2nd. Engine braking. Wow, that sounds really good. So I've got exhaust cutouts on this car, if you're wondering. I still have my downpipes stock. I plan to upgrade them at some point, but I want to hear some in person before I get any, because I've heard mixed reviews about the sound. I want to make sure I'm getting my money's worth. As far as next on my mods list, I do have a set of wheels on the way, which I'm going to talk about those in more detail in my what's next video. Stay tuned for that one. But yeah, when you're running this E30 tune, like I said, it's 800 crank horsepower and it feels every bit of it. You know, I did a lot of research on the S63TU tuning, what it takes to tune on that car, or on that engine, sorry, and what it takes to tune on the F10 M5. And you know, I saw mixed reviews. It seems like the S63TU can generally handle 650 to 750 wheel horsepower or wheel torque without needing to open up the engine. And even at those power levels, you don't want to have too much torque, because if you have too much torque, you're going to very likely bend the rod, because that's the weak point in this engine, if there is a weak point. In addition, you always want to make sure that this engine has plenty of oil, because they do tend to eat oil. I've covered about 1,500 miles and my oil was down probably half a quart, so not much, but a bit. When you're tuned, that consumption should go up depending on how you drive your car, especially if you drive it hard like I do. But yeah, I mean, to me this is like the perfect power level, because the S63TU is not really a great platform for big power, just because everything costs a lot and it's hard to do the work yourself sometimes, if you don't have that experience on BMWs. Like turbo kits are like 4 or 5K, and you're gonna get some big power, but again, if you're reaching those kind of power levels, you're gonna need to build the engine, so it's kind of a slope you need to go down. Like if you get turbos, you need to build the engine. If you do that, you need to upgrade the clutches and the transmission. If you do that, you probably need axles. You know, if you do that, your differential is probably going to grenade next. So this is a good power level without any hardware changes. It's just a fueling change. I use Pearson Fuels. It's an app on iOS, and that shows me where 85 stations are at. And so I just like put them in my maps on the way to wherever I'm going, and it even shows the price while you're looking at the map. So that's super convenient. You can pick out the one you want to go to super quickly. Like the one I stopped at today was $279 for E85, and then the gasoline was probably like $4.50, something like that. So yeah, Pearson Fuels is an app, super convenient. I think that it works in other states. I'm in California. There's a lot of E85 in California, so that's really good for me. As far as calculating the amount of ethanol that I have in the car, what I did initially was, before I tuned the car, I ran the gasoline all the way down until there was like 0 miles, And then at that point is when I calculated the E30 mix based off of a 21-gallon fuel tank. And then that's not that hard to do. And then I have an app called E85Cal off of the App Store on iOS, and that basically helps you calculate your mix. And you put in what your previous mix is, you put in your targeted mix, you put in your fuel tank capacity, your current level, and then it tells you how much gasoline in E85 you need to add for your desired mix, which for this car was E30. It's pretty easy to maintain. A lot of people get a flex fuel sensor. You can, I recommend it. I don't have one on this car just because I haven't actually looked for it yet, and on my previous car I didn't run one because I don't mind mixing and I know how to do it pretty easily. So what I do is I usually let the gasoline go down to a point where it's you know, easy to calculate. So like if it's at the half marker, it's, you know, somewhere from 48 to 50%. If it's at 3/4 full, it's about 75%, something like that. If it's at the quarter mark, then you know it's somewhere between 25 to 30% full. If it's all the way at the last zero marker, the fuel gauge, then you know that you're probably at like 5% or 2%. And the car and the tune can account for, you know, the fuel being E35 or something like that. You know, as long as you're not going up to like E40 or E50 as far as fueling on the S63TU, then you'll be just fine. You know, there was one time where I let the pump run too long on my G30 and I added too much E85, and the only thing that happened was a check engine light. To offset that, I added more gasoline back in and the car ran fine. I babied it, I let all that fuel run out, and then I properly fueled it up again. That only happened one time in, you know, a year of ownership. So it's not that hard to do. I do recommend a flex fuel sensor just because peace of mind. But if you're like me and you can wait, go ahead and run the E30 mix, you know, and do your calculations. But obviously be mindful of how you're calculating. Be mindful of where you're getting your fuel from. You know, things like that. So I'm running into some traffic here, so I won't keep running the video on, but I hope this helped, talking about my tune and tuning the S63TU, and catch me on the next one. Peace.